Oh, rest in peace, Simon. Hey there. Welcome back to Bloodborne. We're back in the fishing hamlet. And today we're going to start making our way around the lake to find whatever destination this place is trying to lead us toward. It seems like things are getting worse as we go on. As we start off with a very nice overlook. Speaking of destinations, I don't know what that is down there. But the moon is starting to look a little bit evil. So maybe let's make our way down there and see what's going on. Maybe along the way we'll find out what the hell happened to this place. Do you hear that? That's strange. Oh my god. I've been invaded. And the invader has a giant blood mace with spikes. Cool. Sweet. I guess this gentleman is the guy that Simon was talking about. Oh boy. His giant blood mace does a lot of damage. And this gentleman has taken a lead elixir, which makes some attacks bounce off of you. Mainly attacks from other players. So, that's not great. This gentleman and his fancy pants deerskin rug outfit is Brador. And Brador is going to be bothering us for the rest of the fishing hamlet. As Simon implied, he's using his own resonant bell to invade people like me. Thankfully, we can charge attack our way to victory. Until the lead elixir wears off anyway. Then we can go with the good old-fashioned method of slashing open his guts with our weapon. Every time you defeat Brador, and he will be coming back, you get another piece of his equipment. And once you have defeated him, enough times for the full set, he stops bothering you. But he might still show up in some places, even once we've rid ourselves of his clothing. So be on the lookout, or be on the listen out for that bell, because the secrets are beckoning sweetly as we proceed further. Oh, they make such nasty noises too. The human fish hybrid sounds are just they don't ring nicely on my ears. Speaking of bells, it's just not great. This whole place is not great. Oh, the barnacles and just the rotted wood, and I hope Jill is wearing some chainmail socks or something. You don't want to be wearing wool socks in the fishing hamlet. And as you can see, as we're getting further toward the coast, we are encountering more resistance, and they're putting up a much heartier fight, almost as if they're defending something. But clearly, we are starting to near the source of whatever went on here to turn everyone into fish people, because the town is falling into further disarray as we go. Oh! Okay. That can just happen now. Lovely. So, yeah. these fish magicians can now shoot lightning at us from on high, which means that I probably shouldn't have jumped off of the ledge like I did. Oh no. Already? Really? It hasn't even been like 5 minutes. It hasn't even been 5 minutes and he's already back. Get out of here, Brador. No? Okay. If you run far enough away from Brador, he will despawn, because Brador isn't like an actual invader. You know how in the Dark Souls games, when an NPC invades you, it's just like a normal invasion and they stay in your game world? Well, Brador isn't actually a real invader. If you run away from Brador, he will vanish in his puff of evil red smoke. But then he'll come back every time you come back near the area. Unfortunately, as much as I wish it were the case, you can't have more than one Brador running around at once. They were a little bit smarter about it than that. But yeah, he's not done yet. God. That really is just horrible to look at, isn't it? That just makes me so grossly uncomfortable, looking down and seeing Yharnam and the Grand Cathedral poking up out of the water. It's so strange. It's such a cool visual. I love it. But every time I get near the edge, okay, well, I guess Jill's gonna need some reconstructive surgery after this, but that's fine. What's 1 or 10 more scars to add to her face at this point? Anyway, you know that feeling you get when you're on like a high ledge and you like look down and like your legs start quivering and stuff? You get a little dizzy even though you're not like even near the edge or whatever. Like, you know that like you have solid footing and you're not gonna fall off, but like just looking down just makes you really uncomfortable. That's the feeling I get when I look down into the water and see Yharnam down there. Oh, great. Well, getting stabbed inside of a giant pile of corpses probably isn't very healthy. I would say that touching the infected corpses, while also bleeding from open sores, is even worse than just having the open sores in the first place. So, once we get back to the Hunter's Dream, maybe we should, like, do some self-care. Maybe we'll have an extended stay. You know, sit down with the doll, have some tea, talk about the mysterious feelings that she can't place from another time and another era, or tenuous connections between reality and the unseen world of horror. You know, the usual stuff. I was looking in my inventory for Molotovs because there's a bunch of enemies standing out here, and these drum barrels explode when you throw a Molotov or any source of fire at them. But I don't have any, and actually, unfortunately, I have several, but they're all in my box. You know how I mentioned a very long time ago. This is like more than 20 episodes ago. This is like 8 months of real time ago, so you probably don't remember this. But I mentioned this very briefly after fighting Father Gascoigne, that stuff that's in your item box doesn't automatically refill unless you manually go and take it out. Like these oil urns that I just picked up. I have the maximum number of oil urns, so they went to my item box in the Hunter's Dream. But, they won't come back out of the item box unless I go there and take them out myself. Which is weird. It's so strange, because it only happens with certain items. Like oil urns and Molotovs. Oh! Okay. Well, that was a super trap, but that's fine. I like that I consciously avoided the trap there. I waited to see if I could set it off, and then ran down to take out the guy who was going to set it off, and then I set it off by myself anyway by just running back and getting blown up. I'm good at video games, you guys. I promise I'm good at video games. This episode so far has not been very good evidence of that. Like I said, this Let's Play has... Just to put this in perspective, this Let's Play has been going on for, like, probably almost a year now, I would say. And since then, I have played so much more of Bloodborne than I had played when I recorded this. Like, I'm so much better at the game now that looking back on this footage, where this specific episode has just been chock full of close calls and terror and pain so far, all I can think of is like, man, what if I had recorded the Let's Play today instead of like, God, it was like 2 years ago almost that I recorded this Let's Play. How time flies. So, there are a couple of ways to get out of this pit we've found ourselves in. This ladder here being the easiest, because it just drops us off right where we need to go. There's a guy alive down there, but I don't care. He gets to survive his encounter with Jill, because I didn't want to jump down and have to fight him. He's got like 1 hit left anyway. Maybe he'll bleed out and die, and then someone will pick him up and skin him and take the scales and sell them on eBay. I don't know. So when you get a chance, maybe look down next time I peer the camera down there, because if you thought that there were a lot of fish eggs and a lot of these weird slugs before, well, you're in for a treat. Because this little cave here is where they were harvesting the things. So, welcome to Slug Central, everybody. Home of the fishmen. And other strange things. I imagine that the people of the fishing hamlet weren't always fish people. They probably were just people at some point. And the fish thing came later. Like it was less of a fishing hamlet and more of a fish-in hamlet. So yeah, the little slug guys, they're kind of starting to pile up down there. I think we could probably put 2 and 2 together right about now. These little slugs are more than just a delicious edible snack. Probably tastes a little bit salty, but like if you grill it on a rotisserie, it's probably tastes quite good. No, I think it's safe to assume at this point that these things are of Cthulhu-esque origin. I don't know if you've noticed, but this area of the DLC has a lot of ties to the ocean, which, as I discussed briefly in the last episode, is a very, like, Lovecraftian concept, right? The ocean's got a lot of deep, dark places, you know? The ocean is, like, the one place on Earth that human beings can't go. Like, you can't go to the ocean. Like, if you want to go to the Marinara Trench or whatever, that's not the name of the place. If you want to go to the Marinara Trench and explore the very bottom to find whales that have no eyeballs and stuff because of evolutionary quirks, you can't do that. You're not allowed. For all you know, there might be a Cthulhu down there, but you can't breathe underwater, so you'll never know. Until human beings create submarines that can withstand more pressure than finals at your local university, we'll never know stuff that, like, lies deep within the ocean, which is most of the Earth. Think about that. There's more ocean than there is land on Earth. It's a scary concept, which is why a lot of Something Awful goons are afraid of the ocean. There's a lot to, a lot to take in, and a lot that could be hiding down there in the depths, and therefore it became a very popular concept in Lovecraft's writing. I just noticed that I walked past an item. Oh, am I gonna go get it? You bet your bippy I am. We've unlocked the first shortcut back to the lantern. This is a very classic Souls game area in that there are 2 shortcuts. One about halfway through the area and then one right before all hell breaks loose. And speaking of all hell breaking loose, again, I hope Jill is wearing some non-slick shoes because, well, welcome to Slug Town. Sorry, I meant to say Snail Town. So these snail ladies are horrible. They take virtually no damage if you don't hit them in the soft little body that they got going on. They're very goopy, and they do 1,000,000 damage. Have a lot of health, but at least they give a lot of blood echoes, so, could be worse. By which I mean it probably couldn't be worse, because the Tonitrus is the best weapon to fight these things, and I just broke it, so that's great. Beast Hunter safe it is. Honestly, there's not much point in fighting the snail ladies. They don't really bother you too much, because all they can really do is crawl along the ground real slow, and you can just walk around them. But you notice that they put a bunch of them in a corner and all that stuff to try and trap you in. Like, you go for the item, and then there's a bunch of snail ladies everywhere. And then you discover that any of these shells could have snail ladies in them. And then paranoia starts to set in. And like I said, we are wearing the best armor in the entire game, and they still do so much damage. I hate it. I hate that they do so much damage, because they're so wimpy looking. It makes no sense. But anyway, think back a couple episodes, and these snail ladies might seem a little bit familiar. Our first hint... Oh my god, is it going down my throat? I haven't really ever looked at that animation close. I don't like that. Anyway, let's ignore that horrible thing just happened, and go back to talking about lore, because that's a much more safe concept. You may recall a couple episodes ago that one of these snail ladies just unceremoniously fell out of the sky into the Hunter's Nightmare. It was right around the time when we picked up the pizza cutter. And that is our first hint that the nightmare plane is kind of like stacked. It's stacked like a layer cake, where it's like at the bottom there's the Hunter's Nightmare, and then the research hall is part of the Hunter's Nightmare, and then in the research hall we went up far enough to ascend to another plane of the nightmare, which is where we found ourselves in the fishing hamlet, which is why when you look down, Yharnam appears to be underwater, because it is underwater. It's just also not underwater. Don't worry, it's a weird concept, but in the next episode-ish, there will be a bonus feature explaining what this whole nightmare thing is about, because a couple of people in the comments and the Something Awful thread and all that stuff have been wondering, what actually is the nightmare? Like, is it another plane of existence? Is it actually a dream? Is it real? And all that stuff. And don't worry, we'll be discussing it a little bit more in depth. I got it all planned out. I got everything planned out, and I got my scripts written, and now it's just a matter of time before this long, long journey Jill has been on, this long, long night, is finally over. Oh god, not again. So Brador is using another one of the DLC weapons. I think you can tell what it does, but in case you can, he stabs himself through the gut and he gets a damage boost. But joke's on him. It's not gonna help him. We got one more Brador appearance left before the guy is done bothering us. But we have most of the set now, so let's try it on. Brador's set is, of course, a Cleric Beast scalp. We don't have the hood yet, but the antlers are there, the big hairy arm is there, and our destination is over there too. It was a weird segue, but we're getting there. Believe it or not, we're in the final stages of the DLC. It's almost over. It's not going to be over today, because we've got a little bit more optional stuff that we have to do. But we are nearing the conclusion of the DLC. Like I said, it's been a long, long journey, and I don't care about fighting those enemies, so we're just gonna not do that. No thanks. All those enemies do a ton of damage, so we're just gonna leave them be, I think. Or not. Did I get brave? Oh, I got brave. Look at that. Wow, I forgot how brave I was. Maybe that's why I almost died like 8 times in this episode. Because I just cared so much. But I'm gonna need this cold blood for what we're about to do, so. Over yonder. Not the giant hole. Next to the giant hole. Down that away is our destination. But I think Jill's had a little bit of a stressful time today. So maybe let's take a break. Maybe let's just activate the shortcut and get the hell out of here. because things are getting tense. Enemies are doing tons of damage. We're about to uncover some horrible arcane secrets that may or may not drive Jill a little bit mad. I know I'm a little bit mad, and it's because I had to record this video in the first place. And I think we've earned a break. Hunting for the aforementioned secrets that man was not meant to know is very stressful business. And so here, now that we've unlocked the final shortcut of the fishing hamlet and the DLC, now we can go back to the Hunter stream for some nice R&R. By which I mean upgrading my equipment and leveling up. That's what the R&R stands for, I assume. Home sweet home. And we're here for a pretty extended stay. Because we are finally going to make use of everybody's favorite Moonlight Greatsword. I mean, it's my favorite anyway. It's got it appears like 10 times in the various Souls games. You know, you gotta have a favorite. Some people like the OG, but I like the Holy Moonlight Sword because it fires laser beams. Although, as of Dark Souls 3, it has competition. Because the one in Dark Souls 3 also fires laser beams, I believe. We haven't been to the Insight store in a while. And since then, a couple of new things we can buy have shown up. We can buy Bloodstone chunks now. Among some other things. Maria's equipment, which I mentioned in the relevant episode, and some other utility items. There's one more badge for us to get, I believe. There's one more badge for us to get, and then we'll be able to buy everything. But it's not going to come until the very, very, very end. And here I am, finally making use of all this damn insight I've been carrying around the whole game. Madman's knowledges give you 1 insight, and I think Great One's wisdoms give you 3. It's either 3 or 5, I don't remember. Either way, bloodstone chunks are prohibitively expensive. They are way, way too expensive. And the only way to get them outside of grinding for them is the insight shop. However, it's worth it because the Holy Moonlight Sword does a lot of damage, even without much investment in arcane. It's actually really a coincidence that Jill is able to use this thing, because like I said, way back when we just first started talking about stat building, I said that I wasn't going to invest much in arcane, only the bare minimum. And as it turns out, the bare minimum is more than good enough. Because we've been picking up some really good gems, and using those we can boost our damage far beyond what the scaling would be at this rate. So, gems are useful. I'm glad that the DLC drops you a bunch of real good ones, and enemies that give you strong ones, because, whoo baby, that's a lot of damage that Moonlight Greatsword is gonna do now. So yes. By almost pure coincidence, I ended up with the perfect spec for a quality build Moonlight Greatsword, which is very strange. It's a very strange concept. And I'm just gonna buy 61 blood vials for no reason. I'm just gonna spend almost 50,000 souls on blood vials. For no reason. And here it is. It looks kind of like Ludwig's Holy Blade, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Because we're not going back to the fishing hamlet right now. Do you remember that we picked up a certain someone's skull? Well, in the real world, the skull was at the Grand Cathedral, and is where we gained access to the forest. So let's go put it on the altar and see what happens. I don't exactly know how Lawrence's skull got from where it is to the other Grand Cathedral below the research hall, but it was almost in its proper place. It's just that it was, you know, below the elevator shaft in like a weird hidden area. I think the Moonlight Greatsword, the Holy Moonlight Sword, is one of my favorite weapons in Bloodborne because it's one of the few big smashy weapons that actually has appropriate damage for the size and swing speed. This is something that I mentioned when we were very briefly looking at the Kirk Hammer and Ludwig's Holy Blade, is that they're big, slow, strong weapons, but they really just don't have the damage to match. It's a shame. It really is. They just kind of suck compared to stuff like the Saw Cleaver. But the Holy Moonlight Sword, Holy Moonlight Blade, the Moonlight Great Bloodborne is not like that. It doesn't fall into that trapping, thankfully. This one random guy is kicking my ass. I don't understand. Like, I'm trying to show off the Moonlight Greatsword here, but he's not cooperating. I guess it's because I'm just not used to fighting this enemy type, because there are so few of them. Like, there's only like 2 or 3 of the Beast Hunter safe guys in the whole DLC, and they're just very sparse. I guess the people here in the Hunter's Nightmare don't recognize the genius of the Beast Hunter safe. And to be honest, I don't really feel like fighting this guy again. So we're just gonna make an executive decision and say, see you later, pal. I've had enough fighting for one day. I just want to uncover the hidden truth of this world and go insane. Is that too much to ask? And so we make this long, long walk again to put the skull on the altar. But maybe it won't be so long this time. So this is Lawrence, the first vicar. I've summoned our friend Walter to help us out with this, because Lawrence is gonna put up a hell of a fight, as you can see by me wearing different clothes and going to retrieve my blood stain. This fight is very difficult. Lawrence is technically the final boss of the DLC. He is a reskinned cleric beast, sort of, with a lot of really dangerous fire attacks that shoot lava everywhere and flames and extra combos the normal cleric beast didn't have. Yes, Lawrence, the first vicar. The original Bergenworth betrayer. The one that started the schism. Essentially, the one who is responsible for the whole mess we've found ourselves in. Founder of the Healing Church, Lawrence the first vicar. The person who brought the healing blood to Yharnam, and thus the plague. This guy is pretty much single-handedly responsible for most of the bad things that have happened to the people of Yharnam in the past several years. And so, symbolically, here he sits in the Hunter's Nightmare, burning for all eternity. But maybe let's put him out of his misery. And my misery. Because I may or may not have had to fight this boss a number of times because it was very difficult. He's got a lot of health, this guy. He's got a lot of health and a lot of defense against pretty much every element. Hey, guess which one he's the strongest against? And it's just a really tough fight. Like I said, this is intended to be the bonus boss. After you complete the DLC, you come back to this area and you're like, oh yeah, I picked up a skull a while back. Let's see what it does. But, you know, it's not over till it's over. As he gains some more moves and buffs himself to do even more damage and starts flailing all over the place in his desperation to murder poor Jill for the umpteenth time. This fight has a gimmick that I really, really enjoy. The second half requires a little bit of ranged capability. So we're just gonna provide our boy Walter with some cover fire here, using our laser beams. I think you're seeing now why I upgraded the Moonlight Greatsword to +9, because the damage just goes out of fucking control. It's nuts. It's just, like, with that attack, he just did like almost 900 damage to me in one hit. It's crazy. And we're gonna use pretty much every bullet I have to try and take this guy out from range. Because at this point, getting close is just a death sentence. It really is. So if you have enough stamina, you can keep comboing the laser beams. Because, you know, it's cool to fire more than one laser beam. And also, that's what our boy Ludwig was doing. Unfortunately, I don't have enough stamina for 3, but 2 is good enough. And it's at this point that I start to panic a little bit, because Walter, I was kind of relying on Walter to keep the first cleric beast at bay, because when there's only one person, he gets a little bit more aggressive. Oh, this is a hell of a fight, too. I love the music. The remix of the Cleric Beast theme transitioning into this, like, Latin chanting is just so damn good. So I probably could do more DPS if I was willing to get close, but I'm not willing to get close. It was at this point that I had been playing Bloodborne for about, like, 4 or 5 hours, because I wanted to get this recorded in only a few sessions, and this is the end of the second to last session. After this, we are in the final stretch of Bloodborne. The DLC is over in the next episode, and whatever happens after that is going to be pure madness. And I hope you're looking forward to it. But in the meantime, at this point, I was very tired. I had been fighting Lawrence for about an hour, and I was not willing to dive in and get killed by the lava for the 30 millionth time. Because that lava, it does a lot of damage. We're talking like Quelaag levels of damage. And it stun locks you so he can smack you, and it leaves a fire trail that does damage over time, and it's just a fucking nightmare. The Hunter's Nightmare is a nightmare. Guaranteed, confirmed. And now I'm almost out of bullets, so we really are coming down to the wire with this one, folks. Oh, I love it. I love this damn game. This game is so good. And the reason that I'm keeping my distance right is that it's very easy to have your attacks carry you into the lava, because look at how the lava is right underneath him. It's directly underneath his body. So if you're not careful, and if you don't dodge around to the sides, you'll attack forward, and the attack will carry you into his body, and you'll step in the lava, and then you'll feel really stupid, and you'll die, and then you'll say bad words and almost throw your control. But then you'll gain control of your emotions, and try it again, and come out with, in my opinion, one of the best boss fights in this game. Because it's unique, right? The unique gimmick requires an improvised strategy. And my way of improvising, because I can't use heavy guns like the cannon, is to fire laser beams at him all day. And so, as this long fight comes to a close, I want you to consider that who we're fighting right now is the man that's culpable for almost everything that we've done so far in the game. Lawrence the First Vicar is perhaps deserving of his punishment here in the Hunter's Nightmare. But I think this is a just retribution in the end. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you all next time, when we finally reach the coastline and confront some very angry demons of the past. Got a question for you. What would you do if one day you were going for a walk in some rural neighborhood early in the morning before anyone else was up and around, no cars on the street, nobody walking their dog or delivering the mail, and you just straight up saw a real ghost? And I mean a real ghost, Ghostbusters style. It walks through walls and utility poles and leaves a slime trail and doesn't look both ways before crossing the street. And hey, let's go even further and say that this happens every single day at the same time, same place, and almost by coincidence, you're the only person who sees it. Every day it's the same thing. Utility poles, slime trail, jaywalking. Would you tell anyone? Well, duh, of course you would. You've got real proof of ghosts existing. And you can bring people with you and point the ghost out to them, and then they'll believe too. And then they'll tell their friends, and they'll tell their friends, and then you'll be renowned as the dude or dudette who discovered that ghosts actually exist. The ramifications on science, on the world at large, on the way life itself as a concept starts and ends will change forever. You'll be famous, you'll get book deals, you'll be rich and live a happy life with a bright future, and the world will be your oyster as you rake in the results of your good fortune. Enter the fishing hamlet, which provides us living proof that all the crap I just said is total bunk. Let's turn back the clock even further than the Bergenworth Schism. As everyone's favorite band Cold Blood says, we're going back to the start. A long time ago, so far back that I don't actually know how far back it really was because there's no metric to judge it by, the fishing hamlet discovered that ghosts are real. In a manner of speaking, anyway, that's just, my own metaphor. In Bloodborne terms, they discovered real evidence of great ones right at their feet. And by the truckload, too. Some ways back, before any of Bloodborne's events, the fishing hamlet set up shop on the cliff and in the caves overlooking the sea, and what they pulled out of the ocean didn't end up being fish. These slugs we've been wading through, the ones we've seen piled up higher than your local garbage dump, aren't just slugs, they're parasites. We've been carrying around one in our inventory for a while, actually. The Augur of Ebrietas and the Phantasm Shell are remnants of parasite slugs, hence the similar shape and size and their connection to the arcane. Well, whether the fishing hamlet prospered or fell into madness due to fishing up, worshipping, and ingesting these slugs, we'll probably never know. But what we do know from some dour poetry we heard is that Bergenworth was here. Based on the headless corpses, the skulls full of angry revenge-seeking curses, and the hostile fish people, whatever they did disrupted things in the fishing hamlet so badly that it became represented in the nightmare plane. What we're seeing is more of a representation of the real place, I'm sure, hence the hunter's nightmare and the ship masts floating in the water, but there's no doubt in my mind that the scholars sent here ruined whatever the hamlet had going for it. In their wake, they left, madness, despair, and ruins. The usual. But at some point, there had to be a start to all of this, Those parasites had to come from somewhere, and this supposed bottomless curse had to be caused by something. Well, in the next episode, we're finally gonna find out what, whether we like it or not.